Well, hello everyone, my name's Tim, and this video is going to be about stripping down a Thorens TD-160 tone arm, which is the TP-16. And I've got my turntable here that I just acquired, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show folks, because I've been looking all over the internet, and there's nothing on how to totally strip down the tone arm. Well, I'm not going to completely strip it down. I'm just going to replace the tone arm tube itself that I got as a new old stock item from Switzerland to replace a dinged one, and I'll go into a little bit of detail here in a second. This will be a long video probably, so I encourage you to jump through things and see the parts that you think you need to see. And of course, I'm open to suggestions and improvements, and so use the comments below in the YouTube post here, and hopefully we can get some information out there for people that want to do something similar to this. So here we have the brand new tone arm. It's the tone arm that I got. It's from a TP-16 arm, which you see to the right, and it's the same one as you can see. It just doesn't have all the hardware attached to it yet. This one's actually brand new, so it's got pristine bearing pivot points there, and everything's in really good shape, nice and straight, all new wires and everything on it. So I don't need to do the disassembly of this part, which can be a bit of a bear. It can be done, it's not that hard. And I don't have to strip it down any further than this. So what I'm going to do is be substituting this arm here, because when I bought it, and I bought it knowing this, that it actually had this big dent here, right here on the tone arm. And what's unusual about this is I thought because of the dent in it that it would actually be canted up and away the head shell here, but not so. It's actually quite straight and true. It plays very well, but I just can't live with the fact I've got a big ding in the tone arm here, which means it's gone through some abuse at some point. I think what happened was it probably dropped a lid on it or something when it was in the tone arm holder here, because I think all it did was it dented it, but it didn't actually bend the tube. Nevertheless, I'm going to be replacing it because I got this one at a reasonable price. I think it was like 80 bucks, and then I had to pay a bit of duty here in Canada. I think it was like 18 bucks for duty or whatever. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show the strip down of the arm, and then reassembling with the new arm tube, and then how to actually set all the bearings, because that's probably the trickiest part of this whole thing. So there's a little instruction that I'll link to below that actually it's a fellow in Belgium actually promulgated it. It's a PDF file that you can download, and shows you exactly how to set the bearings so it's properly calibrated. So ideally what you should be able to do is not be able to pull it this way, and it should be nice and tight, and if you try to rock it in this kind of a direction, it should also be nice and tight. And this one is. It's actually quite sturdy, and the tone arm works very, very well, with the only problem being this nice little smile there. So follow me as I dig into this thing, and hopefully I don't wreck it. So more to follow. So I think I picked a good day to do this. It's raining quite steadily outside. So what I'm going to start with, of course, first thing I'm going to do is start stripping down the turntable. This is not part of the turntable. It's a Q-up lever that I use to turns the turntable into an auto lift. I've got now 4 Thorens turntables, and every one of them has one of these. And basically, when the arm reaches the end of the playing portion of the LP, it hits that button and it basically lifts up the arm, and that way you save wear and tear on your needle. It actually is positioned right in here, and you just move it back and forth until you get it to the sweet spot where it gets to the run-out groove, and this cocks down like this, and you push it and it lifts the arm, and it's a great little device. Inexpensive option to give a little bit more convenience to a totally manual turntable. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off all the bits, and I've got my #1 fan down here. We're going to take off the outer platter and put it down. All of this is going to be polished up, of course. It's right now it's in its stock condition. I don't normally like to touch with the belt with my oily hands, so what we'll do is I'll just use a dental pick here, not using the point end, but basically lift off the belt and put it aside, and I'll probably put it in a bag in a few moments, just so and I won't leave it there because you get UV sunlight coming in, and you don't want to damage the belt. So we'll put it in a nice envelope and tuck it out of the way. Of course, you got your 45 adapter, RPM adapter, and I'm probably going to take out the inner platter as well. I just oiled it and everything, so I think there's a bit of oil on the bottom there when I flooded the well, so it's a really good suction on this thing. So the bearing is still pretty tight. I'm going to clean all of that up and clean this up, and then flip it over, and then what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the lead wires from the tone arm on the bottom. We're going to pull that out, and then I'm going to open up the workbench here and move the turntable plinth off to the side, and then we can work just on the arm. So that's sort of the top side preps. And of course, what I'm going to do is I'll probably tie that down with a tie wrap when I flip it over, so it doesn't go flipping around. The other thing I'm going to do is take the stylus off, and then so I don't damage a perfectly good cartridge. It's an Ortofon OM10, and it's pretty near new, so it's a nice stylus. I was listening to it. It's a good little fit for this turntable. I'm just using some cotton oval swabs that I got just to sop up some of the excess oil and to clean up the top and make it nice and tiddly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape the well. Probably what I'm going to do is I'll take up all the oil using Q-tips, non-shedding Q-tips, and then pick up all the oil, and then what I'll do is I'll tape it over just so we don't get dust and crap inside the bearing well. And because it may be a little while this thing is open to atmosphere, and I don't want dust settling in there and gumming up the bearing. So I'm not going to film doing that. I think there's plenty of imagery out there that shows how to empty out the oil well. But I just use a bunch of Q-tips and sop up the oil, trying not to leave any lint behind, and then I just clean it out with an isopropyl swab that I get. My wife's a nurse, so at the hospital she gets a bunch of these swabs here that I can use at the very end just to make sure it's nice and clean and tidy inside the bearing well. There we've got, what I did was I also went and used isopropyl alcohol here to clean off the thing, because of course even by swabbing up the oil it's still a bit oily and the tape doesn't stick to it. So I put a good amount of painter's tape or masking tape onto the top of the platter, and it's holding well now. I'm not going to be leaving this on for tons and tons of time, so I'm not concerned about leaving residue behind. So this should be over pretty quick next few days, and we'll see how it holds up. And now what I've done is I've likewise, without touching it with my oily hands, I've put the belt in. It was a brand new belt too. I ordered a nice Thorens brand new original OEM belt, and got it stowed in there for safekeeping. This I'm going to keep over here. I don't want to accidentally damage any of these bearing points. And And then we're going to tuck this out of the way over on the other side here by the platter, and likely where I'll be storing the plinth once I've got the arm dismounted. So 3 screws here, and then underneath what we're going to do is disconnect the lead wires off of there's a little RCA block where the RCA jacks basically plug in and meet up with the tone arm wires. So what we're going to do is unsolder those with my soldering gun over here, and then we should be able to disconnect, and then also we have to disconnect the cable for the tone arm lifter, and we'll show you that on the bottom side when I flip it over. I'm just doing all the top side preps right now. So a good little lesson that I learned when working on turntables and any hi-fi gear, any of the amps that I rebuild or whatever. What I always do is get a little dish or a bowl, and that way I can put all the tiny bits in. So any of the screws that I'm going to pull out for the tone arm will go in there so they don't get lost. And I think what I'm going to do, because this is a complex disassembly, is I'm going to spread out a sheet of paper over here once I get everything set aside, and I'm going to lay out the parts in the order that I take them off on the arm. So first thing is going to be the top cap here. Well, of course, the first thing I'm going to do are the bolts there. Then there's going to be the top cap, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll lay them out in the order in which I disassemble, so that makes it that much easier when I reassemble with the correct arm tube. Of course, I mentioned that I would be removing the stylus, so it's just a matter of popping it off. I've got the stylus guard here. I'm going to set it in there very carefully. I'm going to tape it up so it doesn't accidentally fall out, and put it in a safe spot so I can find it basically at the end of the day. There you have it. The stylus is safely in the stylus guard, and I've taped it up so it won't flop out the side and get lost. And I'm going to actually put it over here. I've got a little drawer that I'm going to throw things in too, and that way it can't possibly get damaged. And then the next part, we're going to remove the head shell without breaking it. There we go. There's the cartridge, and we're going to set that aside out of the way, basically. So I just put a zip tie here just to hold the arm in place, because I'm going to end up flipping it over. First I'm going to take these screws out here, or maybe what I'll do is I'll leave those in, and then I'm going to pop it up on its side, and then have a look at the bottom side and make sure I'm disconnecting all the appropriate things there before I come back to this side, and then disconnect the arm board from the plinth and try to remove the arm. So now I've got the table up on its side, resting on, and I'm not very super concerned. I would normally have cloths down here and everything, but this is actually, I'm not going to be using this plinth. I hate these plinths. They're crap. They're just press board with a very thin sort of veneer on the top. And this one is not in any great special shape or anything. So I do have another TD-165 that I might use it to salvage and salvage that table. But for this one, I just wanted to show the custom baseboard that I usually build. So what I do is I'll take the original press board. This is the original bottom for this turntable, and what I do is I use that as a template, sort of. I mean, obviously I've did different notches for where the RCA and the power cord comes out, but I basically make a template to fit exactly using 3/8 inch MDF, and then I paint it black just so it doesn't stand out. And oftentimes, let's see if I did it on this one. No, I haven't done it yet, but normally what I'll do is I'll use a heat gun, bring this up, and then pop it up underneath that. And so I'll be doing that just to have the original label on the custom baseboard. And this tightens up the plinth considerably. I do have a burnt walnut plinth that I had for my TD-165, which is kind of my trophy table, but this one is, I'm thinking this will supersede it when I'm done. Once I've done all of the insides and tuning the suspension, I might put some sorbothane and you know, deaden it a bit, deaden the other plinth a bit. But anyway, that's past what I plan on doing with just this arm. So there you have it. There's the custom baseboard, and of course I have custom feet on it, and then there's also little pucks that they metal pucks that they sit on with little holes so you don't scar up your table that your turntable is resting on. So just looking at the bottom here, you can see where the tone arm assembly comes down, and this is interesting. Yeah, I had not seen these boxes. I've only worked on this 165s prior to this one, but you can see the block assembly arrangement from a TD-165 is considerably different. So it looks like I have some disassembly to do here, and then of course we have to disconnect the tone arm lifter assembly, which is a cable that runs here, and what I'll end up doing eventually is taking off the old silicone grease. 200,000 CST is what's called for. I have some 300,000 CST, and it seems to work very well. But anyway, we'll tackle that later. There's nothing wrong with the Q. It's actually working quite well, so I probably won't touch it until it starts to either slow down or ceases to function correctly. And then, of course, we've got to disconnect the RCAs inside this. Looks like it's shielding is what they've done on this one compared to the 165. Interesting. All right, I put the camera on a tripod here just so I can have two hands to operate here. And gotta be very, very careful because this is you know, the tone arm there is very delicate, and you don't want to be having this thing flop over and crush all the bearings and wreck it. So that's why I'm going to use one hand to basically hold the plinth in place, and then we're going to do some surgery here. So we got a little pliers here, and what we want to do is we want to, actually I don't even need the pliers, we're going to remove, this is the disconnecting the cable to the tone arm assembly. And actually we might have to do it the other end because this thing is hard seated in here. And so I might have to pop this guy here, pop the whole cable off, pop it out of here, and then pull the whole assembly through. Or what I can do is actually unscrew those screws and pull this assembly off. I think that's what I may do. That way I don't have to touch any of this brittle nylon and plastic over here, which could break. I'm very familiar with taking these off on the TD-165 turntables. It's exactly the same arrangement. So what we're going to do is unscrew this, and what we want to see is what it looks like under the hood. So there, it's just one screw, I guess, that's holding on the, and again we use our little bowl there, and now you can see the block basically, and it's a very simple arrangement actually, very tidy arrangement for hooking up the tone arm wires. And all we're going to do is disconnect these, and what I want to do is I'm going to take a picture, so I'm going to pause and use the camera, take a picture just so it's green, red, white, blue, and that's the arrangement. And actually I don't really need to do that because green goes with red, blue goes with white, and you can see that the tone arm or the RCA jack cable follows that same basic order inside there. So what I'm going to do is flash up my soldering gun here, let it warm up, and then we're going to pull these things off. The ground wire here for the arm itself, which is this clear colored guy here that's off the bottom of the wand, it actually goes to the left ground, or to the right ground, which is consistent with these turntables being a right grounded turntable. And then you have a chassis ground strap here that goes from the floating chassis to the fixed chassis here, and that grounds these two together, and this grounds basically the arm itself, I believe, to the floating chassis. So yeah, she's a nice nice little turntable. So let's we're going to get into this guy here, take that apart, and there's a hex key actually, so I'm going to move this over here, move that into here. And there's actually a hex key that goes into this lifter device, and you can actually pop that out. So I'm going to have to cut that strap, pop that out so I can remove, when I remove the arm assembly here, it'll remove it without having to pull this thing through. So that'll be decoupled from the base of the tone arm board there. Okay. So let's get myself some tools. I don't know what I'm going to try and do is also edit down this video. So probably was a little too early with that one. Oh, there's the right size. Got lucky. So what we're going to do is we're going to unseat that. This is easily adjustable. So now I can loosen it a little more. There we go. And you can see there's the hex nut right here on the bottom of the arm lifter. And we'll screw that in just so it doesn't accidentally flop out and I lose the nut. And we'll put that baby inside here. And then there's your post that's normally greased, and I'm not going to try and touch that. And by now I think I don't think I'm going to need to, that holds in pretty good, so I don't think I'm going to zip strap that right now. But we'll see. Okay. So next is we're going to decouple the tone arm wires from the RCA block. So I'm going to snap a close-in photo of that just to make sure I get it right. And as I think this was out of the view here, so you can see all the bits that I'm starting to assemble into my little parts collection there. And keeping my tools and everything, keep the workbench clean as much as possible because there's lots of little bits here that can get lost. And next we're going to move on to the tone arm lifter assembly we're going to pull out, for want of a better name. And see if we can get that guy out of there. These are a little bit tricky. So, unscrew that. And if anybody's done many of these turntables and sees anything that could be doing better, please pipe up. It's a learning experience for me too. Sorry if I'm getting in the way of the camera, but I've got to make sure I'm doing it properly here. There we go, and make sure we don't lose all the bits here. So what I'm going to do, and actually with this one, I'm going to take this all together just so I don't lose all the parts for this assembly, including the screws. I'll just put the screws in the proper place here, and same with this point here. And we'll keep this all together as one nice assembly so we don't lose the parts, including that nice O-ring there. It's a spring seal. Okay, so that's the tone arm lifter tucked out of the way, and then now if I can do this without knocking the table over, I will be quite happy. I need two hands to be able to solder this thing. We'll do it very gently. Okay. Get the soldering gun closer. The soldering wand. Okay, so we don't want to put any pressure on the turntable because otherwise, I don't want to be stripping the insulators off the wire with the heat either. So let's work from this side. There we go. There we go. There we go. And there, got the arm assembly, arm wires basically disconnected from the RCA block in there. Okay, and now I'm trying to figure out whether I need to take out this this block assembly. I don't think I do, because these are the three screws that hold the arm assembly in, and it should just pop straight out. And if that's the case, then I can more or less set this thing aside, and then I can just work on the reassembling or disassembling and then reassembling the tone arm itself. Okay, so let's try to move this down without pinching anything. Okay, and then we need our little parts box here. I don't know if you can still, yeah, you can see it in the screen. So that goes. Oops. There. I want to do everything gently, so you don't want to be rocking and rolling this thing too terribly much. There we go. And hoping that this whole arm assembly now moves out. And now we can work on this as its own little bit to reinstall that component into the arm assembly and move this out of the way where it doesn't get damaged. So, and or scratched or marred up or anything, because it's still in very good shape. I still have to tidy it up a little bit. These serial number labels, they always look kind of cruddy because they're just like stick on kind of aluminum units. So anyway, I'm going to find a soft spot to put this arm on, and there we go. Make sure we don't stress anything, and then I'm going to move this out of the way. And what I did was I put the 3/8 inch MDF base plate back onto the plinth, so it would contain all the cabling and that little tone arm lifter that's attached to this switch here, and everything's nice and tiddly inside and out of the way so I don't accidentally ding it. And same with my platter, it's out here out of the way. And now I've opened up my workbench, and I'm going to set this up so I can disassemble the arm. And what we'll do is try to keep all the parts and pieces in a sequential order in the order in which I took it off. I know it's a dirty, yucky workbench, but what I want to do is make sure it's clean of any kind of gunge and grease and stuff before I lay down a mat to work on, and then we'll tear it down. All right, we're going to do a little bit of prep here. So what I did was I got a cutting board. Not that I'm going to do any cutting, but just a smooth surface to work on. And I'm going to bring the tone arm over here. I'm going to set the other one off to the side here out of the way on a nice soft pad. And what I'm going to do is lay out an area where I can put all my parts after disassembly, so I don't lose anything crucial, because there's lots of small little bits. If you looked at the web length of vinyl, all the various vinyl links that I've pointed out. There we go. And I'm going to go get my little laptop and see the parts. So that's the little mini wire that goes from this assembly onto the to your tracking force wheel here. That seems to be all working well. And anyway, I'm going to go get my tablet here and set up my tablet over there so I can have the photos accessible. And just want to make sure I'm looking it over real good to get a good understanding of how everything's assembled together. There's a little hex key there, and I think that's for your vertical tracking angle, VTA adjustment. There's another one on the side here, and suspect that's holding in this anti-skate assembly here. So I'm going to put it on pause, and we're going to go get the tablet so I've got some reference material to look at. All right, one of my prep items here too was to print out a copy of this, which is the tone arm bearing adjustment on Thorens TP-16 tone arms. Author doesn't say who it is, but I found it online, and it's got some very good diagrams and very good instructions, albeit in broken English, but it's readable. And I think it's a fellow in Belgium that drafted up this procedure for when you reassemble the bearings. You've got a couple of side bearings here and a bearing on the top here that it gimbals on and allows it free movement and smooth movement. And obviously, if you can see the bearing adjustments on the one side here, one side there, and the other is a screw that's, you just pop that cap off and there's a screw there to adjust the tightness of those bearings. So obviously if you tighten them too tight, then you don't get free motion. And if if they're too loose, you get too much free motion. Sorry, I've got the garage door open, but it's a little bit noisy in here. But basically what you want to do is have it to the point, and according to the instructions, where you shouldn't be able to get much play if you're moving it fore and aft and rotating it about the axis of the tone arm tube. And you can see that this one is still in very good shape here, because it does have fluid motion and everything, and obviously it works better. And when you do this, you have to actually have everything assembled on the plinth balanced, and just by just blowing on it, various aspects, you can find out whether it's too tight or too loose, and get it set up correctly. So that's the procedure that I'm going to use. I'm sure people have their own and have figured it out on their own. It's not rocket science. It's just basically making sure that you get free motion and it's not going to resist the arm being pulled across the platter when the stylus is in the groove. So there you have it. All right. So I've got all of my reference material here. I've got some stuff on vinyl engine on the strip down of the TP-16. And there's also a link here to the Analog Depot, which actually has a teardown, a whole bunch of more detailed photos. So I'm going to start with this as the first item of business. First, before I do that, what I'm going to do is take off all the heavy bits here. So we're going to remove that. We're going to put it over here. I'm going to take this bit out just to make it lighter to work with, so I'm not stressing the bearings too much. Pop that there, and as you can see in the new one, it's also got that piece there, which I'll take out just before I put it in, just so I don't have too much weight on it. And the next bit that we're going to take off here is this top cap. And these things are hard to find, so don't lose those. I've seen a lot of people looking, and you see a lot of photos of turntables with just that bare, and people have somehow lost these things. I suppose I could 3D model that. It'd be pretty easy to do. So it's one for doing down the road. So again, we're going to keep everything in order of disassembly. And so I think the next bit is, and on here it looks like it had a two-hole kind of thing where you needed a special tool to undo it, but this is just looks like a flathead. And I believe what you end up doing is you have to unscrew that. So I'm not sure if I should be taking out this assembly first or not. Be fairly easy to do, actually. I can take off, use some hex keys here basically to take those bits off, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that part off and make it less bothersome. Oh, there it is. This is probably the one we need. Yep. So we pop that off, loosen it. There's two of them that are holding it in place. And I see the way it's oriented is that hex key is at the back, and then this one is 90 degrees to the side. So one dead center here and one just over here. And you can see how it's oriented. So we'll take that off. Oh, and I unscrewed it too far, which I was afraid of. We'll get it back in there. There we go. And that comes out. And I'm going to put these back in just so I don't lose these bits. These are very small, easy to lose. So we want to make sure that they're in place. There we go. You don't want to cross thread them, so you'd be very careful when you're screwing them in. So I'd hate to have to find another one of these online because I cross threaded this collar here or whatever. Okay, so back into the order of things. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take off our anti-skate, or do I want to do that quite yet? I could probably do that. Oh, I see. Okay. That just screws in and lines up. Let's see how that works. There's a little just a magnet basically to counteract the centrifugal force of the platter on the stylus. So it counteracts that force, and that's what you're adjusting here by moving this this little assembly. So it can only go in one place. So let's see if this is going to fit. That one might not be a little. Oh, there we go. I got the right size. That one was too small, so that's no good. This is the right size. So, we're going to take this end piece off here. Oh, I see there's two of them, just like the other one. So again, on this anti-skate collar here, there's two very, very, very small hex keys. And what we're doing is just backing those off, so hopefully this assembly will just slide off. And it doesn't look like it is. Very small bits there. And that's off. Oh, there we go. And once again, once I've done that, I'm going to put these back on just so I don't lose them. And of threads biting in. And there you go. You can see the two Allen key screws, I guess, in anti-skate collar assembly here. What we'll do is we'll clean all of that up nicely before we reassemble it as well. And I'm running out of spots here for bits, so we'll start another row here. So that's that part. And it looks like the only marks on this are just from that that collar assembly that attaches on there. And I don't know if that comes out very easily. Okay. So being very, very gentle, again, still nice and tight, nice and snug. So I'm going to go and try and disassemble that top one. We're going to pause it right here. I got to get a proper screwdriver. All right. Took a little break, had some supper. Now back at her. It's dark, much darker out, raining lots, and it's just a nasty, nasty day. So now we've got it sort of down to that point here. I notice that the paint is rubbed off on the tracking force dial here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some white paint, and once I get that disassembled, and there you have it. Okay, yeah. So what it doesn't say how this goes apart. Those are all the bits there. See that? So that's screwed in on the bottom and the top. So this, I think, just unscrews. Okay. Not sure how that goes. So let's take this off and see what happens. So there. And I got some acetone too, so I can clean all these bits off. And there you see is the top bearing. And I'm going to leave that in place. So again, we're going to pop that down in order. And how that actually comes out, maybe we don't even have to actually disassemble that. We can just leave it in place. And get this out just by unscrewing that, and then I can pull the assembly out, put it in, pull the cables through. $10 mil. That's $10 mil. So let's move her over here, and I don't want to put any torque on the bearings itself. So what I want to do is try to there we go. Interesting. So I think that's for locking. Put that there. Put it down. Oh, and it's not very tight. It's, it's just snug. Oh, and there's the bearings. Very, 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 very fine bearings inside there. Very fine. Not too hard to understand though. So there's one bearing, and that's going to be I'm going to mark it anti-skate side. And actually the arm can come right out. So how? Oh, almost made a fatal mistake there. So you don't want to pull on it too much because you still got this little guy. So I think the whole assembly does have to come out. Well, I got it to this point where I got the arm out, and you can see this is the old one, and you can see that the length I don't need to cut at all because the length of the wires are correct. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and push it through, and I'm going to use the old collar from this one because it's still embedded in the tracking force gauge, which I don't want to pry on this and break this. So what I'm ending up doing is I'm going to just basically put it back in and reassemble it from here. So yeah, they don't really give good, I don't find any good instructions anywhere on how to disassemble this lower portion here, but I do have it so that it's gimbaling correctly, and I can reassemble it without having to strip it down any further than that. So I just have to get these wires through the tube, and then basically reverse engineer it, put it all back together, and then I think I'm good to go. So that's what I'm going to do. So what we'll do is we'll take this part off and get that out, which is this bottom screw, which is that one. No, not that one. Anyway, that comes out, and I'm going to take this part out, leave that there. Then I've got to somehow feed all these wires down through this tube. It's going to be no easy feat. Get this out of the way so I can work and see what I'm doing here. So, the way I pulled it out, that's the bottom, that's where your grounding wire is. So what I need to do is get these wires all together and feed it down that tube, if I can. I'm just going to use a little thin wire, fish it up the hole. Tape it all together. At the shortest spot. We got it. So we got it through. Put a banana clip on there. And now we need to allow enough space to get this part through. How we did that before, I don't know. Screw on. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And that needs to be about there. Perfect. And then that goes there. Okay, it's looking good. going to put this back on. So I didn't disassemble it just because I did not want to break it. Now I've got the wires through. Everything's in. And I'm going to keep those on so I don't accidentally knock it through. And now it's a matter of getting the bearings in. And the key one is that one that's already in place, which is that one. And then getting this one in place. So that one's in. Let's get this bearing out this way. Whole lot of patience required for this. That's for certain. There we go. That one's in. And need a flashlight. Looks like that one's in. And we just need to get this guy in. There we go. Got her in. Not quite. There we go. Got her. See? So now I've got the bearings in, and everything's intact, and I've got to get this guy back on. That's good. That's good. Okay. And this guy needs to sit on top of that guy dead center. A little loose, but we can snug that up. That's what that this procedure does. Tone arm bearing adjustment. If once it's all together and once it's on the arm and balanced, then you can start tweaking it. I don't know how tight that's supposed to be. All right, so now I've got everything, I've cleaned it off. I used a little bit of isopropyl alcohol just to clean the outsides parts, and everything seems to be nice and tiddly that I can see. Getting rid of all the dust and grime and everything. Could have done that a little bit better when it was off, but oh well. Everything seems to be together properly. And now what we need to do, I clean this off too. And what we're going to do is slide the anti-skate mechanism on and screw it out so that the that part is recessed inside the cavity here. And we're going to slide it back up into position to line it up and make sure there it fits. Then we use our Allen key here and tighten it in. Just snug. You don't want to do it too tight and break the strip the threads or anything. So it looks like everything is working good. You can see the magnet going up to the other the main ring magnet there, and that's gonna fix the anti-skate. There we go. And everything is nice and square and flat, I believe. Just one more adjustment here. There. That's square and flat. There, perfect. And you got free motion. Perfect. That works. And then we're going to clean this part off. Lay it down gently. And what we'll use is some of these cotton swabs here just to clean any grime off of it. There we go, lots of dirt on there coming off. clean. There we go. And then of course, want to make sure you don't put the dull side up. You want to have the shiny side. You want to clean that off. That's all grimy. Oh yeah, it cleans up nicely. There we go. Got lots of goop and dirt and crap on it. There we go. And it looks almost shiny new. And then, of course, these feed through down through the hole. And as I mentioned, these here. Oh, I see. Got to back these hex screws off because I didn't want them to fall out. Make it room for them to slide in there properly. And of course this part is for the arm lifter. That's the VTA, so that we'll adjust to get the arm height properly. Oops, sorry, here I'm out of the viewfinder here. So we're adjusting that in. And it's amazing how many different sizes of hex keys they've used here. And anyway, I'm going to go and double check the angle that thing is supposed to be on. Well, it's day 2, and it hasn't taken me a whole day to do this. You've seen the video. It's only probably a couple hours work. But I took a time out, and it was getting late last night. It's raining to beat the band still, so a good day to do indoor projects like this instead of being outside. So we'll carry on with the completion. So the hard part's done. What I've done is I've reassembled the arm and everything, and now I'm just sort of tweaking the angle on this, and I'll have to do that when I have it back on the turntable plinth. And what I'm doing here is I'm just adjusting the angle of the anti-skate, and it should be, and I won't be able to get it totally lined up until I get it onto the platter, onto the table. There we go. We've got full range of motion there. That's probably pretty close to what it needs to be, but we'll fine-tune that. That's easy to do while it's on the Alright, once again, there's 2 hex keys that you got to just lock down, not too tight because you don't want to strip it. But you don't want to have it too loose so that it starts moving on you. And so there it'll sit in the arm there like that. And what I'll do is I'll hold off on putting the counterweight here on, just because I don't want to put too much stress on the bearing joint here. Until I get it onto the plinth, and same with the well, I've already got that one in, so anyway, it's not that terribly heavy. And then I'm not going to put this on until the very end after I've fine-tuned the bearings on the table. So that is about as far as I can take it here. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the plinth back over, and we'll mount this back onto the plinth, and we'll start tuning it. But as you can see, full range of motion. And when I tug on it, there's no movement. I might actually be pretty close to the bearing settings the way it is, but we won't find out until I put a head shell on it, the cart, and balance it out, and do all the tests that are indicated in this guide to adjusting the bearings on the toner. And yeah, so then we'll have a nice listen to it and see how it sounds. So we'll pause it right here and bring the plinth over and start reinstalling that. All right, now I've got the plinth back into its proper place, and as you can see, we got a lot of dirt in here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to clean that out too, just because we don't want to have a bunch of grimy dirt in our nicely updated arm here. So what we're going to do, that's just isopropyl alcohol, just to clean out all the dust and see all the dust and grime that's in there. So what we'll do, clean that out, make it nice and tiddly. Grab some toothpicks, or Q-tips I should say. You can see, look at all the dirt in there. Yeah, lots of dirt. Get all the dust and grime. It's just on a sprung chassis, so you can just pop it down and make some room for your Q-tip to get in. And we'll give it a once over after as well, just to make sure everything's hunky-dory. There we go. Small little marks on there. It's all cleaned off. We'll put a little drop of oil on the motor too at one point. Clean off the pulley. Motor's running really quiet, so I'm very happy about that. There we go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to place our motor or our tone arm in. Make sure the cables are going through the guide path properly. All lined up. And of course, we got our trusty parts bin here. 3 little screws that go in. those all in before we cinched them all down. And we want to be careful screwing them in because we don't want to strip the sockets out or the screws at all. And again, snug but not overly tight. No need to strip things out here. There we go. And that may not be over enough. Time will tell. So we want to pop that home so it doesn't swing around while we're doing the underside maintenance. Okay, so we're going to pop that up like I showed before, and you can see the raising and lowering device, cueing mechanism, and we taped everything together so we wouldn't lose it all. And of course, don't lose your little O-ring there. It's like a spring kind of loaded O-ring, and this fits in like that, and that's why we use two hands. Good save there. Okay. Okay. This is the tricky part. I'm trying to do this one-handed. Always have a magnetic tip screwdriver kicking around. What we're going to have to do, let's get that in there. We have to stretch this out a little bit. I'm just sort of pinching down here just to hopefully not knock the table over and get the there we go. This doesn't want to go in. There we go. There. Got one in. Now this one's going to be a bugger. You want to make sure that I'm going to flip it the other way so that O-ring drops down. And now we've got it lined up. There. Wonder if this will work. Yeah, it'll work. There, we got her in. Oh, I didn't bring it close enough here. Sorry about that. There we go. So, what I ended up having to do is fiddle fart with this thing here. I want to get that O-ring in the proper place. And then we can cinch that down. That centers the O-ring there. And the bottom one. Not too tight because you're going into plastic and you don't want to strip the threads on the plastic receiver there. There we go. Nice and sturdy. And lever is working. So we're going to flip it back over. And let's see if I've got it in the camera view. There we go. And now the next part is to resolder these wires. And we got to make sure that they're in the same order that they were in. And as you recall, you can see the threads here. So that's red. That'll be green. The ground goes to the right hand ground because it's a right grounded turntable, and then the blue goes to, no, I can't see it here. Yeah, so white and then blue, and that should do it. So I'm going to turn on my soldering iron here, and I don't know, maybe we can do it. I don't know. I don't want to knock the table over while I'm doing this, so I may do this off camera. This is a delicate job, so I just want to make sure I don't ding anything. The last part that I forgot to do is we've got to reconnect the cable here for the Q-arm lever here. So there we go. It's kind of hard to do this with one hand. I'm going to put it off to the side here. Hold that down so it doesn't flip the table. Now we can get this to the angle that we want it to. There we go. And now the cable is in this receiver here, which is what lifts and lowers the, allows the tone arm lifter to lower. And you can see it perceptibly moving. That's all you need. It doesn't move very much. And then of course the weight drops it down. So perfect. Here's how your lever works. So that's done. And like I say, we've got to resolder these on. So my iron is hot. I'm going to go get some, I think it's still moist enough. Yeah, here we go. Let's see if we can do this without dropping the table. There's lots of solder on the joints here, so I don't even think I need to add solder here. So let's see what happens. So that one's on. Now we said that one is also going to be green. Both those are on. And then this one, next one is going to be red. I'm shaking. Never shake when I do this kind of stuff. And red is on. Next is white. Oops. There we go. White's on. Get that out of the way so I don't burn it. And then the last one is blue. Oops. Now this is tricky. There's a big pole in the way here that's gonna and blue is on. So we'll give it a small little tug, make sure they're not loose. Yeah, they're all well connected. And there you have it. Shaky hands and all. Yeah, so everything's now in place, and we can hopefully pop this back on. I think this goes, how did that go? Yeah, I think it goes this way. Screw. Yeah, there we go. On the other Thorens tables that I work on, TD-165, I thought it would be very similar to this one, but didn't have this little box here. It was actually located further over. So we've got the screw mount here. And again, I'm going to put my fist here just to prevent this from flopping over. We almost had the accident back there. And in this goes. Make sure it's nice and square. That's on solid. There we go. We should now have a functioning turntable. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you how I set this thing up for balancing. I've got these jars here that I usually use to put some cloth towels on there. Paper towels on here with elastic bands just to prevent it from scratching up, but like I say, I'm not really concerned about this plinth. It's old and tired and will eventually get replaced anyway. So normally I put one here, one back corner, one front right. So there we go. Makes it nice and sturdy. There we go. I might have to move the camera back a little bit. That way, the nice thing is you can get underneath it, and you can start, once I get the platter and everything on, then I can start tuning the springs. And what I may end up doing is taking all the springs apart, cleaning them, talcum powdering them like you normally do. But this is just going to be a quick and dirty just to get things functioning. So next thing on is going to be the counterweight. Head shell. And this will need some adjustment. There we go. Didn't look like it was all the way in. It was in at all, but it was, I guess. A little high. That will have to adjust when the platter's on. So it's lowering. So I'm going to set everything to 0 here. There we go. Oh, I was going to get my little baby paintbrush and way too high. Yeah, I think we got those bearings bang on. There we go. Up and down, working good. This needs to go down just a tad. And I may have to pivot that a bit. But we'll see. And there you go. Very close. The rest of it is going to take long to adjust, and I'm going to have to probably pivot this ever so slightly so that I can reach the full center of the platter or the run out on the record. And we're going to relube the bearing well and the bearing, and then I'm going to go underneath, and that'll be a different video. I've actually got one on my TD-165, and the way you balance this thing out and get it all tuned up correctly is the same way. I think Dave from Vinyl Nirvana also has some good videos on how to get in there and tune your turntable properly. But I think for now, and then the other thing is, the last thing, once I'm satisfied everything is good, we'll pop the top cap on, and there you have it. The tone arm has been replaced, and the bad one with the big ding on here is now in a box. The tone arm's still good. It's true and everything, but I just didn't like the fact that it had a big smile on the arm tube. So I've got it back in my parts bin for a spare if I ever needed one down the road. And then what I'm going to do is, before I probably tune this, I've got another plinth. I've got one of my TD-165s in it, but I like this turntable better. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plinth off, put the 165 into this plinth, and then put this into my burnt maple custom plinth that I had made by one of my neighbors, and put that as the centerpiece to my system once I get it all tuned up. And that's going to be a long, arduous process, a few days, just to make sure I get everything right. So thank you for watching. I know there's probably a lot of you out there that would have done some things differently, but this is my first kick at the can. Oh, and then of course I've got to add my weight onto the arm according to the Stylus OM10. So I'll be looking up the correct tracking force. I think it's around 1.5 grams or something like that. I'll have to look it up and apply that, and then I think I've got a playing arm. And you know, the arm looks like it's you know, it's working quite well. And then of course apply the anti-skate. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Well folks, there you have it, the end of another DIY video. As I mentioned, I think just a few moments ago, that this is my first kick at the cat of doing a TP-16 arm, so I'm sure there's many ways of doing it better, but I think I got the desired end result, and I believe I'll be very happy. I'll do another video once I've completed all the tune-ups and showing it how it works once I get everything assembled. But for the most part, I think I've got past all the hurdles of changing the arm tube, and you know, I looked all over the internet, and really there's nothing out there that shows how to strip down one of these arms, and I got it to a point I wasn't able to. I didn't want to damage the one arm that I have, so I didn't strip it all the way down like I would have liked to have. But I just was fearful that I would strip things, and I didn't want to force anything. So I accomplished what I set out to do, which was to change the arm. But had I been able to strip it down, I probably would have been able to clean it a little better and whatnot. I did some offline cleaning just to save time on the video, but there you have it. We're complete, and more to follow in my YouTube channel when I get everything operating correctly. Thanks.